The animals, so again the picture continues. The animals, the examples continue. The animals lone or trooping through the glades. He is giving now the evening, the animals are coming back home. The animals lone or trooping through the glade, fled like a passing vision of beauty and grace, imaged by some all-creating eye. Yet something was there behind the fading scene. So although it is like that illusion, still there is something behind it. Wherever she turned, at whatever she looked, it was pursued, yet hid from mind and sight. Everything is about mind and sight again, see. Sense and thought. He's talking this sense and thought, mind and sight. It was pursued by it. So that pure perception is there all the while. The one only real shut itself from space and stood aloof from the idea of time. So it is that one alone who is there. He kept away space, he kept away time and stood behind alone. Its truth is of that one. Its truth escaped from shape and line and hue. All else grew unsubstantial except this one. Everything is unsubstantial. All else grew unsubstantial. Self-inert, this only, that is one only, everlasting seemed and true. Yet nowhere dwelt, it was outside the hours. It is outside space, it is outside time. This only, again he says, this only. Now this stands, this stands for the one. This only could justify the labor of sight, but sight could not define for it a form. Why? Sight could not define for it a form because mind is not there. It is formless. What that sight will show is only formless. This only could appease the unsatisfied ear. Same thing, sense and thought, But hearing, listen in vain for a missing sound, because mind is not there, the primary sense. This answered not the sense, called not to mind. See? Called not to mind. It met her as an uncut, inaudible voice. It, standing again for this only, for the one. It met her as the uncut, inaudible voice that speaks forever from the unknowable. So that voice is coming from the unknowable. So the beauty is, the voice is inaudible. You can't hear it. Yet Savitri can. It met her. Yet Savitri can. Because of that pure perception. So that is the central thing. Pure perception. Pure perception does not need any instrument for all these things you see. It met her like an omnipresent point. What a powerful line. So it, that one, has become a point now, single point. Bindu. The whole vase is simply point. Point has no dimension. Point has no dimension at all. That is a void also in a way. It met her like an omnipresent point. So what is a point? Which has no dimension. What is a line? Line is made of points. Now, how does a dimension come from a dimensionless point? Nobody can answer that. What is a line? It has no width. But when you put number of lines together, you get a page or space or flat surface. How that happens? Which has no width. When they are put together, you are putting pencils one after the other and you are getting a pattern. So you get a flat surface. What is a flat surface? Which has no height. When you pile them up, you get a solid body, you see. This has no width at all, but when you put them all together, so that is the omnipresent point of pure dimensions. Now, what is that pure dimension? It is unfixed, it is invisible. The single oneness of its multiplied beat, accentuating his sole eternity. That is how he is defining the pure dimensions. It faced her as some vast knot's immensity. It, again that one, an endless no to all that seems to be not this, not this, not this, not this, not this. Neti, neti, neti. That is the spiritual experience. No, not this, not this, not this. An endless no to all that seems to be, an endless yes to things ever unconceived. Yes, yes, Brahman, 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 everywhere. He. So we have got here neti, neti, neti. Here we have got iti, iti, iti. Yes, yes, yes. That comes, that neti and iti come when you have pure perception. The whole foundation of knowledge here is that pure perception. It is not my mental thing, no, not this is not Brahman, this is not Brahman, this is not Brahman. Yes, this is Brahman, you are Brahman, I am Brahman, everybody. See, that is mental, you see. It is not. And endless yes to things ever unconceived. Now, both are important. Endless no and endless yes. Endless no to all that should not be, all that is void, inconscient. For that endless no, all that is superconscient, spiritual, of the spirit, yes, yes, yes. So the entire foundation of the supramental manifestation is quintessenced in these two lines. What is supramental manifestation? Not this, not this, not. Yes, yes, yes. Brahman should come here, come here, here. By emptying out, then put that thing up. So the condition for the higher manifestation, supramental manifestation is here. An endless no to all that seems to be. It seems to exist, but it has no truth content in it. Therefore, no. Endless yes, because all that truth content should come here. And all that is unimagined and unthought, an eternal zero or untotaled ought, a spaceless and placeless infinite. Now, these two lines, unthought, ought, these are accidental rhymes. Accidental rhymes. Rhyme.
Why accidental?
You don't have anywhere in Savitri like that.
How do you know? Maybe he put it in purpose.
There are only 2 or 3 examples of accidental rhymes in Savitri. These one of them.
Yeah, but I'm asking, how do you know it's accidental and
Because
not in purpose?
No, well, that is of course a point, but you see, I can say that this is with a purpose. Spaceless, placeless. And these are also rhyming. These are also rhyming. Yeah, whether we have a point there, whether it is accidental or purposeful. Yeah. But normally he would avoid. He would avoid. Because it's a blank verse. The whole structure of Savitri is unrhymed blank verse. Unrhymed. See, it becomes monotonous, it becomes dull, it becomes, yeah. So, yeah, so once in a while, okay, it can accept it. But I mean, I would tend to say that it's an accidental rhyme. He didn't mean that. Yeah. See, why it is accidental? Because the construction of these two lines you see here. See, for instance, an endless no to all and endless yes to all. They are kind of balanced line. Whereas these two lines are not balanced in that sense. They are not balanced in that sense, you see. And all that is imagined and thought, and eternal zero or untotaled ought. In fact, there are a couple of more lines like that in Savitri. Just 2 or 3 examples are there, where you have got, yet eternity and infinity seem but words. Yes, after all, only imagine. Vainly affixed by mind's incompetence, we put tags. We don't really understand what that means. To a stupendous lone reality, the world is but a spark burst from its light, that one spark burst of its light. That is the theory of Spotter. The primary Big Bang spark burst. This is a Big Bang of its birth. The world is but a spark burst from its light. All moments flash from its timelessness. All objects glimmerings of the bodiless that disappear from mind. When that is seen, when you see that one, then everything disappears from mind. It held as if a shield before its face is showing what you are. A consciousness that saw without seer, a consciousness that saw without seer. The truth where knowledge is not, nor knower, nor known. That is the blank. You see. Means there is no objective creation at all. Consciousness that saw without a seer. The truth where knowledge is not, nor knower, nor known. The truth where knowledge is not, nor knower, nor known. The love enamored of its own delight, love for its own sake, it is a need, beloved, by its own right, in which the lover is not, nor the beloved, bringing their personal passion into the vast. So there is no personal at all. Love for itself, knowledge for itself, beauty for itself, truth for itself. The force omnipotent in quietude, the force omnipotent in quietude, the bliss that none can ever hope to take, the force omnipotent in quietude. You can see this line is different than the other lines in terms of its rhythm and its force. The love enamored of its own delight, in which the lover is not the beloved. It is a kind of a narrative, it's a kind of a description, bringing the personal passion into the vast. It's a sort of a narrative. Whereas the force omnipotent in quietude, it does not need any other background. It stands by itself. That is the mantra. The force omnipotent in quietude. It comes from the left side of infinity, stands in front of a while and disappears to the right side of infinity. That is the mantra. It stands for a while in front of you and disappears on both sides of infinity. It doesn't need any background. It doesn't need earlier line, later lines. The force omnipotent in quietude. So it's such silence, such quietude that the force is omnipotent, can achieve whatever it wants. You see, the force, it is a name, short long. Omni, short long. potent, short, Pyrrhic, inquire, I am, tude. Inquire, etude. This. So first foot is the force, the second foot is omne, the third foot is potent, fourth foot is inquire, and the fifth foot is etude. It cancels the convincing cheat of self. So the self itself has gone away now. A truth in nothingness was its mighty clue. Its creation. Now we have got most wonderful lines. If all existence could renounce to be, and being take refuge in non-being's arms, and non-being could strike out his ciphered round, some luster of that reality might appear. So the three conditions are there, three sequences are there, three steps. Some, and he says finally what happened? Some luster of that one, of that reality. Maybe we will see a little glimpse of it perhaps. Some, if all existence, whatever is there, is abolished, renounced to be, does not exist there. And being take refuge in non-being's arms. So the non-being is embracing being. Existence has gone, the being is now in the embrace of non-being. And now what do you do? That non-being who is embracing being is removed, thrown away. So being, non-being, existence, everything has gone away. And non-being could strike out. So when everything has gone away, ciphered round, so that thing has become a round now, zero. Ciphered, zero. So being is embraced by non-being, and that non-being itself now is knocked off, zero. Ciphered, annulled, totally. So everything has disappeared now completely, you see. And when that happens, being, non-being, existence, everything has disappeared, then possibly you could see a bit of that luster. If all existence could renounce to be, and being take refuge in non, so this is a kind of a super logic, you see. Here the picture is a very different kind of a picture. The logical content in this thought, in this sentence, is more powerful. You can see the force omnipotent in quietude. Here, the love enamored of his own thought and beloved. You can see the difference in the quality of lines and all that. Here, this is kind of a descriptive narrative. Here, you are having super logic. It is sheer super logic. Being has disappeared in the arms, being is in the arms of non-being, non-existence, and that non-being now is knocked off, and therefore what has happened is the ciphered round, and then that reality might appear. Now, I have made a note here. Everything has gone now.
But how do you perceive then that reality? How do you?
That reality now does not see existence, being, non-being, nothing.
Okay, but if that reality might appear, how do you recognize
a luster of that reality? He says luster of that reality. That reality is always there. Though possibly you might be able to see that luster, if that perception is there. That perception is there. That pure perception. Let me read. Being is an assertion. Being is an assertion. Non-being, standing behind being or around it, is also an assertion. This is being, this is non-being. Both are assertions. So being is an assertion. Non-being, standing behind or around it, is also an assertion. Now, if the assertion of the non-being is abolished, then the true positive beyond both is reached. True positive beyond both is reached. It is that positive alone which will make all existence, being, non-being, everything transcendently valid and meaningful. It is that positive alone. It is that which will give value to being, non-being, or whatever you want to call it, you see. By this assertive laya or dissolution or true nirvana, this is the true nirvana now. This is the true nirvana. See. By merging herself in not self, Savitri attained the state of formless liberation. I will read again. Being is an assertion, non-being standing behind it, behind being, or around being, is also an assertion. Now, if the assertion of the non-being is abolished, then the true positive beyond both being and non-being is reached. It is that positive alone which will make all existence, being, non-being, everything transcendently valid or meaningful. It has a value only then, when it is abolished. By this assertion, by this assertive laya, laya means dissolution. Savitri had dissolved. By this assertive laya or dissolution or true nirvana, by merging herself in the not self, Savitri attained a state of formless liberation. A formless liberation came on her. Formless liberation. Her body was floating like a shell without any content in it. Even that form, now that shell, has also not disappeared. That form also is not there. When sepulchred, alive in brain and flesh, sepulchred, buried. So until now it was buried in brain and flesh. She had risen up from body, mind and life. She was buried there till now, sepulchred. He says sepulchred, you see, is not a living person. The true Savitri is not there, buried. Live in brain and flesh. She had risen up from body and mind and life. She was no more a person in a world. She had escaped into infinity. She was a point of pure perception, pure dimensionless point. That also has gone away. She had escaped into infinity. That is the total nirvana of Savitri. What once had been herself had disappeared. There was no frame of thing, no figure of soul.